Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. We are also on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Amenuveve FM in Aflao, Volta Premier in Ho, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Radio Max in Takrade. We are live on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook and myjoyonline.com interactive app. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. This afternoon, Speaker of Parliament admits two crucial motions of the minority requesting Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to present to Parliament the debt restructuring program and also to investigate the National Cathedral project. We have details of that and also growing concerns regarding refusal of state agencies to grant access to information as National Security Ministry and Lands Commission are slapped with penalties in excess of 100,000 cedis.
Institutions are not complying. People are resorting to the commission. Other institutions are going to court against the commission. Several of those institutions that penalties have been imposed on have not yet complied.
We hear from the Media Foundation for West Africa. Also, government says it is aggressively using technology to root out illegal fishing fleets entering Ghana's maritime space, as Fisheries Minister says her name sends shivers down the spine of Chinese operators.
Since I took over office, it's gradual. When I took office, it was there. I heard about it. And that is why I'm committed. I must be honest, and I'm not bragging. The Chinese people even are afraid when they hear my name because they know I will not spare them if anything goes wrong.
Of sports.
Ghana lacks proper football thought leadership. That's the view of a FIFA director. Details on that join in 20 minutes.
Over 500,000 students admitted into the senior high school as government honors outstanding students in the last BC. And in our Ghana Man series, we head to Ada to meet traditional priests who are able to fetch water with baskets. And later in the bulletin, how Chief One broke into the music space, rapping and singing in Ewe.
I don't think it's luck. I think it's hard work.
Do you think language is a barrier?
Musically, I don't think it's a barrier because music itself is a language. So.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. Please stay for details. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Let's start off from Parliament. And the Speaker, Alban Bagbing, has admitted two crucial motions filed by the minority. First, the minority wants the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to present for approval government's debt restructuring program. The second motion, they want Parliament to conduct an investigation into the National Cathedral-related controversies. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us to give us a breakdown of everything. Kweku, walk us through all the details.
For the first motion has to do with the minority and their quest to have Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta bring the full details of both the domestic and external debt restructuring programs to Parliament for approval. We know that on the day the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta came before Parliament, the minority MP said they were not so satisfied with the answers that had been provided and they wanted to see the documents themselves. On that very day, they proceeded to file a motion led by their leader, Dr. Kisela Toforsen. We now know that the Speaker of Parliament has admitted that first motion for the Speaker for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to present to Parliament the government's debt restructuring program for consideration and approval. The second had to do with the matters that is being led by the Honourable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. He has been loud on this National Cathedral issue. He says that government has expended some amounts of money that is completely not within its remit. It did not come to Parliament. They are even alleging corruption and influence peddling at a certain level, and I've asked Parliament to investigate that. That also, led by the minority leader, Dr. Kisela Toforsen, they've also filed another private member's motion. So, per Order 78 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, these motions have now been advertised, and will be set to be taken as soon as next week, although today's business statement that was presented did not give any idea whether that will be done next week.
And you've been finding out what processes these motions are expected to go through now that they've been admitted.
So if it is scheduled for action to be taken on them, the movers will move the motion, it will be seconded, both sides will debate, and then they will vote on it. Ultimately, the minority are able to marshal their numbers to be on the floor on the specific days that these private members' motions may be moved, and they are successful. They will get to request the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to present to Parliament the government debt restructuring program for approval. Indeed, there are those in the majority side who say that the government does not need parliamentary approval for such operation. The minority disagree. On the National Cathedral as well, they say that this is only a ploy by the minority to further embarrass government. And it's just gone by on the floor. The Honorable MP for Botiano English Yaman from Sylvester Tete says that this motion has caught them by surprise. He said that it was an ambush that the minority was seeking to lay on Parliament, and the leadership is set to respond to those specific concerns that he has.
Saying that there was no hint given to this House on the last business statement presented to this House. I'm asking the chairman why. Yes.
Well, Kweku, so that's slighted there. But away from this and the admission of these two motions by the Speaker, what else is happening in the House?
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had about 15 questions standing in his name to respond. He was supposed to do so last week, Wednesday, but he wrote to the Speaker of Parliament announcing that he had some key meetings with the Republic of China on government's external debt restructuring. We know that China's go-ahead is what is standing in the middle now, and so they were set to meet officials from the Ministry of Finance in China. And so the Speaker of Parliament admitted that the minister was not going to be able to answer those questions. Today, he was expected to come and answer those questions. Our understanding is that he will not be able to do so, and already MPs like Clement Apawu have raised the issues on the floor, but they've left their constituencies to come to Parliament to get the minister to answer these questions, and he is still not here. So Afenyo Market is on his floor now. He will be expected to answer why the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is not here today.
That's Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante giving us all the details of happenings in Parliament, and we are told that the Speaker has admitted two crucial motions of the minority requesting that the Finance Minister presents to Parliament the debt restructuring program and also investigates the National Cathedral project. There's more of that on myjoyonline.com. But this morning there are growing concerns regarding the refusal of state agencies to comply with right to information requests. The National Security Ministry, for instance, refused to release an investigative report on the assault of a journalist, Caleb Kuda. When the Right to Information Commission wrote to the ministry demanding a justification for the refusal, the ministry did not bother to send a response. The situation is no different with Lands Commission, which has joined a growing list of agencies to be slapped with such penalties. Joseph Akable is with our research desk. He joins me in studio with more on this. Joseph, let's start with the National Security Ministry. What actually accounted for the Commission's decision to impose such an administrative penalty?
And so it has to do with the alleged assault of journalist Caleb Kuda. You recall, after the issue came up, the National Security did issue a statement indicating that it admitted that some of its officials had breached standard protocol. And so Oliver Bakavomawo, Fix the Country Group, wrote to the National Security Ministry asking for details on what its investigative report uncovered and which aspects of the protocol were breached. He did not receive any response, and so he decided to now apply for a review to the head of that institution, being the Minister for National Security. Again, no response. Then he went over to the National Security, and the National Security, to the Right to Information Commission. The Commission wrote to the National Security Ministry, and there was still no response. So the Commission determined the matter without hearing from the National Security and decided that the investigative report should be released, but the CCTV footage of the interrogation of Caleb Kuda should, however, not be released to the Fix the Country convener.
Okay, but let's talk about the Lands Commission too.
It had to do with some lands. You recall the Achimota lands issue, where government had indicated that portions of the Achimota forest had been returned to the original allodial title holders that the state had previously compulsorily acquired the land from. And so the Occupy Ghana wrote to the Lands Commission asking for a full list of such lands that the state had returned to the allodial title holders. No response was obtained. Eventually, they told the pressure group that they were now going to write to the Attorney General for advice, leading the group to resort to the Right to Information Commission, and the commission has imposed an administrative penalty of 100,000 cedis.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph, with those details. Let me bring in Suleiman Ibrahim, as Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on the Midday News. Mr. Ibrahim, I know the Fourth Estate has also been faced with similar challenges, and even in some cases, not even the imposition of penalties resulted in the release of the information. Where do we then go from here?
Well, I think that we are making progress gradually. It's unfortunate that some public institutions haven't come to terms with the requirements of the law yet, and that is what I anticipate is happening. Some inquiries that we've made suggest that sometimes even the bureaucracy at these public institutions makes it so that letters don't get to the people who are supposed to act on them. But of course, that cannot be a legitimate excuse. So far, a number of public institutions have had these penalties imposed on them. Last year, I recall the Ghana Police Service, the Prison Service, the Health Regulatory Authority, a few district assemblies, and now we have the Lands Commission, the National Security Ministry, and so on. I think, as far as I know, the commission, the RTI Commission is actually taking steps to ensure that these penalties are enforced in terms of recoveries. Maybe it's because the LI is not out yet, and institutions feel, well, they can do whatever they want, and that is why we are having the situation that we are having. But when we get to the point where the commission is able to enforce its orders, I'm sure we'll overcome these current obstacles.
Well, to the extent that we are not even sure that these penalties or fines are even paid, is it time for us to start looking at the law itself to give the commission some more teeth to bite?
Well, there's supposed to be an LI accompanying the law, which I know the commission is currently working on. But even before the coming into force of the LI, which would further expand the scope for the commission to make these kinds of orders and enforce them, I know there are processes ongoing by the commission to commence, the filing of originating motions in court, so that courts can then compel these institutions to comply with the orders of the commission. So it's an ongoing process, and knowing what I know from other countries in the region, I would say that Ghana, we are making quite some progress, because it isn't the case that all institutions are failing to heed to or provide information that is requested. I believe so far we are doing like 60 or 70% of institutions releasing requested information. And then
Apologies, Mr. Suleiman Ibrahim, would have to leave it here. That's the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Now, former Chief Justice Sophia Kuff has expressed concern regarding what she says is the decline in love for peace in Ghana. Equally disturbing is what she describes as a lack of integrity. She expressed these concerns when the University of Ghana organized a lecture ahead of Independence Day delivered by anti-corruption campaigner Manasseh Azoriawene. First, listen to Manasseh point out challenges facing the three arms of government.
Our only hope with the executive arm of government is that one day we may get a president who is honest and willing to tackle the rot in our country. The legislature is a lost cause. Our parliamentarians do not represent us. They have sold their birthright to the executive and have gone to sleep. There are judges who are honest but are not courageous to stand for their principles and to suffer for them. And even as judges, they should know that the effect of bad governance is like rain. It doesn't fall on only one roof. I agree perfectly with the former Chief Justice, who is here with us, who said recently that her mouth was gagged when she was in office. In fact, any sensible judge must first learn to tame his or her tongue before taking office. But dear judges, if your mouths are gagged, your conscience should be free. And if you ungag your conscience while you are on the bench, you may have no reason or cause to ungag your mouth when you are on retirement.
The middle class and the church were not left out.
One does not need to be a homosexual or a promoter of the activity to have concerns with the church in Ghana. The corruption and greed that make people suffer and die needlessly in our hospitals are worse than the effects of homosexuality. And if I were to decide whether a homosexual or a corrupt person should have access to heaven, I will not think twice before giving a homosexual access. If our church should be taken seriously, I think it should make its voice audible in the restoration of integrity in our society. The middle class. The middle class is supposed to hold the ruling class accountable to the working class. Some only make noise, and when they are invited to the dining table, they observe table manners and leave the poor to their fates. When the mess finally hit the ceiling and the investment of the middle class was threatened, they began to realize how their silence is hurting everyone, including themselves.
Anti-corruption campaigner Manasseh Azoria Winiwell, former Chief Justice Sophia Kuff says the time for change is now.
I'm very optimistic that this lecture has set the tone for deeper reflections on the state of our economy. In fact, this, all that we're doing right now is so timely because things have reached a certain pass that it's quite obvious to everybody that things cannot continue like this forever. And our collective well-being is a matter of deep concern. And so this lecture reminds us of what we could do to salvage our nation.
That's former Chief Justice Sophia Kuff there taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. We've been talking about the Speaker of Parliament admitting two crucial motions of the minority requesting Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta to present to Parliament the debt restructuring program and to also investigate the National Cathedral project. When we return, we have sport and over 500,000 students admitted into the senior high school as government honors outstanding student in the last BECE. In our Ghana Man series, we head to Ada to meet traditional priests who are able to fetch water with baskets, and then how Chief One broke into the music space rapping and singing in Over.
I don't think it's luck. I think it's hard work.
Do you think language is a barrier?
Musically, I don't think it's a barrier because music itself is a language. So.
Keys. What could be simpler than a key? Who doesn't have a key? A car key, an office key, a drawer key. But there's one key that rules them all. The house key. The key to a place we call home. The key to the home where everything comes together. The key to a home that is our own. A home where we make life happen with our families and loved ones. Adoha has been working hard for over 30 years to make home ownership within reach for many. Say yes to property with Adoha. Your dream home is one call away. Your dream home is a few clicks away. Visit our Accra project, The Place, by calling 030-2789-757.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. You know buff, you know chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selendion. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe. So say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! That's my boss, Mr. Poncho go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for choosing us. Let's do the sports here on the Midday News now. Michael.
Hello. And issues concerning Ghana's football are basically a broken record. From a sub-quality Premier League to dysfunctioning national teams, this football terrain in Ghana is far off the levels expected of it. And per Gelson Fernandez, a FIFA director, it can be accredited on almost non-existent football thought leadership.
I think we have a lack of infrastructure within the country for the youth. If we want to compete at the highest level, we need an appropriate technical center. I think the president is aware of that, and the whole executive committee and the whole federation. For us, it's not easy. That requests investment, because without this, it's very difficult. I think the kids in this country deserve that opportunity, that platform. We all want and would love to have a strong league here in Ghana, which is not easy, and we there need also the clubs to have a better structure. You know, in terms of capacity building, I think there is also things we can do from an administrative part to lead football in these countries.
Well, this weekend has sparked Emefa from the start of the new Formula 1 season. The few Super Clash and President's Cup, as well as the Premier League, will Arsenal open an 8-point league atop the Premier League table, or Manchester City slash lead to 8, or Manchester City slash lead to 3, or in Ghana, Indiana City also open Indiana FC actually open an 8-point league atop the Premier League table. We have a preview on tonight's locker room, which starts at 7 p.m., as well as a deep dive into Hearts of Oak ahead of Sunday's top liner at the Accra Sports Stadium.
Thank you very much, Michael. We can't wait for that to happen. Now let's get into the election headquarters, and he's highly tipped to win the NDC's presidential primary, but that is not slowing him down. He's setting off victory, but more concerned about the margin. Former President John Dramani Mahama, who launched his campaign yesterday in the Volta regional capital, is now touring all 17 constituencies in the region. At Nodai, the former president demanded 99.9% of the vote, and this, he believes, will send a strong signal to the NPP about the NDC's readiness to wrestle power in 2024.
When the current president won, I was president and I was going to hand over to him. He was president-elect. I had to take him to Flagstaff House and show him around Flagstaff House and go and show him the president's office. When I win the election in 2024, nobody is going to hold my hand and show me Flagstaff House because I've been there before. I'll do the campaigning. I'll come to all your constituencies. But on D-Day, the polling stations are 40,000. And each of the polling stations has 9-member executive with co-opted members.
At Hohoi, the former president is unhappy the NPP won the seat. He describes it as an abomination.
I feel shy when I'm told that Hohoi is an NPP constituency. I feel ashamed. It's an abomination that we must cure as soon as possible. And may it never happen again. There are 6 people vying for the parliamentary seat.
Now, a leading member of his campaign team, Joshua Labi, says in former President Mahama, the NDC as a candidate fully prepared for the presidency.
We all stand with him, and we are committed to be with him when he takes up power come 2025. For the past 6 years, the good people of this country have yearned and continue to yearn for the return of the NDC.
That's Joshua Alabi. Will stay a while longer in the Volta region, and state agencies, including the Urban Roads and Ghana Water, are putting finishing touches to facilities in and around the youth resource centers at Adaklu, where the annual parade of security agencies and school children will mark the Independence Day celebration. Volta Regional Minister Dr. Archibald Lecha tells Joy News all is set for the region to give Ghana a perfect celebration.
We are working very hard to make sure everything is set. The venue, as you said, is located at Akucherepe and is the Regional Youth Resource Center. We are doing a lot of work there. It was scheduled to be completed somewhere later in the year, but because of the privilege of hosting this anniversary, the National Youth Authority with the Ministry of Youth and Sports were asked to make sure that it is made ready for the anniversary. And they're doing a very great job. The contractor is doing a great job.
That's the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, and all roads leads to the Volta region this weekend. Visit Volta and definitely experience Ghana. Now, over 500,000 students have been admitted into the senior high school for the 2023 academic year. This, according to government, is the highest enrollment into senior high school since the introduction of the free senior high school program in 2017. Education Minister Dr. Yawose Educhum announced this during an award ceremony for outstanding students in last year's BEC.
When free senior high school started, 2017, there were 830,000 students enrolled in our high schools across the country. This year, we've had a record placement of over 500,000 students. 830 was for 3 years. This year alone, 500,000.
Now, President Akufo-Addo says his government will continue to invest heavily in the education sector despite the economic challenges facing the country.
Today's youth running barefoot to school could be a future leader of business, industry, the arts, or government. Education is the equalizer of opportunity. I'm in this position as President of the Republic because of education. Education is the most effective way to change the fortunes of our country and continent and join the group of developed nations and continents. I can assure you today that my government will continue to take your education and the educations of millions of Ghanaian children.
That's President Akufo-Addo. Now, the Republic of Guinea is the first amongst a number of African countries repatriating their citizens from Tunisia after the country's increasingly authoritarian leader called for a crackdown on migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. The African Union at the start of this week condemned the comment of the Tunis President Kais Saied, which he says is targeting immigrants and goes against the foundation principles for the African Union. Already, Guinea and Ivory Coast have commenced their repatriation, with scores arriving last night. Blessed Suga leads our international desk, joins me in studio. Let's talk about the repatriation and the comments that were made by the president of Tunisia.
So first, I want to start with what Kais Saied said, which is stoking this tension. He says that, quote, migration is a plot to change Tunisia's demographics, and traitors who are working for countries and shady parties are targeting Tunisian state. And he continues to say that he helped sub-Saharan African countries at the peak of COVID-19, and yet these countries are being used as a conduit to change the identity of Tunisia. And that's the statement that stoked this whole tension.
Okay, but what about our foreign ministry? We know that other countries are repatriating their residents. What about the foreign ministry? What have they said so far about it?
Well, we haven't seen any statement yet from the foreign ministry, but in terms of the SAB region, Guinea is the first to do that. The first batch of the repatriation team arrived last night. Cote d'Ivoire will follow, but there's no, of course, statement from the ministry here in Ghana indicating what will be done to Ghanaians outside.
And I know your desk is following up on that. Thank you very much, Blessed. Now, fetching water with a basket sounds like a fruitless and unintelligent thing to do, but can you believe that this is very possible? In our Ghana Man series, Kujo Yankson takes you to Ada to meet traditional priests who are able to fetch water without the water dripping.
The world turned its eyes on Ada this year as their annual Asafotufiami festival drew tourists and visitors from across the globe. This cultural extravaganza commemorates the numerous military victories chalked up throughout history by the ancestral people of the Ada Kingdom. We are here for the first time to experience it all for ourselves. The loud rhythmic drumming and the bright red clothing, the unceremonious loud bark of the muskets and the heady mixed aroma of gunpowder and goat kebab leaves one in no doubt whatsoever that you are at a festival. One by one, the clans line up on either side of the road. The second half of today's ceremony takes place on the riverbank. This is where the whole Ada township follows their traditional leaders to the waterfront to thank the gods for victory and to cleanse their bodies after the bloody battle.
Now, that priest, is going to use the basket to fetch water from the river. And the water will not spill. That's a basket full of water that's not spilling. All right? Now they're going to carry that basket back, and then some of the leaders are going to drink from it.
Well, now you know baskets can also fetch water. You can catch that full Ghana Man series on the Joy News channel, also on all our social media platforms. And just before we go on to showbiz now, the musician Chief One says language is not a barrier to making waves in the music space. The singer and rapper delivers fine tunes in the Ewa dialect and is determined to take this far.
I don't think it's luck. I think it's hard work, because I started this not today, and people know they vibe like that before.
Do you think language is a barrier?
Musically, I don't think it's a barrier, because music itself is a language. So if the vibe is there, we play songs that we don't understand. Yeah, so it's not a barrier for me, because I'm here like this. People stream my song in US, Spain, a lot of places.
Oh, I know.
I can't pay the 3 people to loving my song, so like if it's a barrier, they will not even pay attention to me. So
if you're my bad days, Monday.
And that's Chief One, and he'll be performing this weekend. You can catch him in the Volta region as we celebrate 66 years of independence in the Volta region. Visit Volta and experience Ghana. That's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News. Parliament set to investigate National Cathedral project as Speaker admits motion. Ghana Traditional Council resolves to vehemently oppose Kayaye Hostel. And that's it for the Midday News. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil up next. Midwagbe.
If you're my bad days.